What's up, everybody? This is a new channel, so I'll just tell you guys what I'm into. First off, my videos will be a human voice and a human brain, and that's the important part because I don't just regurgitate everything I've heard. I study into all phases of the human condition, from the ancient catastrophes described in mythology up to our modern rift in Western society. I definitely have my view of things. I'm not saying that I'm right about everything, but everything I present is factual, and the point is to get you to think about it. So this isn't for everybody, but if you're into this kind of stuff, then I think you might like it. As you'll see, I'm much more comfortable on a microphone than on camera, but hey, you don't go to the Super Bowl on your first game. Ruckus isn't going to leave me alone and let me do this. You want to come up here? There you go, buddy. First and foremost, on Quackademia, I guess we should start at the beginning. Probably the most important thing to know about history and the world is that the Earth goes through cycles, and I've got them broke into three categories. You have the world age cycle, you have the civilization cycle, and then you have the more of a grand solar minimum sun cycle. So the world age cycles, the last one was about 5,000 years ago. Who knows how long it was to the one before that? I don't think it's like on a clock. I think that those happen because of outside forces. But the Noah's flood was the last world age ending event. It's recorded all around the world. Epic of Gilgamesh, Deucalion with the Greeks, the Aztec remember the old flood, and everybody remembers the flood. The Maya also say that the last world age ended in a flood. The one before that was fire. So Greek and Aztec say that that's the way it went. So the flood was about 5,000 years ago. A few thousand years before that was it's also called ekpyrosis, the destruction of everything through a conflagration, fire. So then every 400 to 800, maybe 1,000 years, you have the civilization cycles. So you had the Bronze Age, and then the Bronze Age collapsed and the Greek Dark Age, and then you had the Greek Age, and then the Roman Age, and now we're in our modern era, which basically began in the 1300s with the last catastrophic cycle that hit us there. You've heard about the Black Death in the 1300s, and it was just a plague, so there's nothing else to look into there. Well, it was a lot more than just that. It was earthquakes, possibly volcanoes or impact events, floods, droughts, locusts, you name it. And estimates say 50 to 200 million people didn't survive that. There are accounts that say 15 out of 16 people in some towns didn't survive. So it was a major civilization ending event. And then we started into our modern era. Okay, then there is the grand solar minimum cycles that are like 200 to 400 years. And with those, it's just like the little ice age. The temperature may drop a couple of degrees, the way they calculate it with the poles and all that, but it's enough to change weather patterns. Allegedly in the 1300s, what happened there, the island of Cyprus prior to that was lush green and beautiful. And then after everything changed, then it turned into a desert island. So Earth goes through these cycles. There's the world age ending events are majorly catastrophic. Hardly anybody survives. And then there's the civilization ending events that it breaks down civilization, but there's still a lot of survivors. And then there's just kind of the mildly annoying that might cause some agricultural migration with the grand solar minimums. And then there are the puppy dropping events. He's fine, don't worry. He's invents a puppy. But we did unplug the microphone and I recorded 13 minutes of video. So I apologize, there's going to be some bad audio here. Now, the next thing to understand is that a lot of times when the ancients were referring to the gods, they were talking about the stars and the planets, the lights in the heavens. And the oldest of mythologies describe a cataclysm of those lights in the heavens. So the planets were literally fighting with each other. Also, it would appear that Saturn was in a more prominent position back during the golden age of man, and it might even have been our actual sun, what they considered the sun, because, there's a lot of weird stuff in there. But let's just go with this. This is from the book, The Cosmic Serpent. An important underlying theme of Egyptian cosmology is belief in the actual presence of God's representatives on earth. Thus, the pharaoh seems to have been identified with Horus during the New Kingdom period. Now, I've had a long ongoing debate with myself about whether the little g gods that the ancients tell stories of were actual physical entities or if they were just the lights in the sky. There's no doubt that at times when they refer to a god, they are talking about a planet or a star, but then some mythology is more like a fable. So I think the stories get mixed together of, say, Ra, the sun, and his representative on earth, Ramses, where sometimes they're talking about the life of the pharaoh and others they're talking about the catastrophe at the beginning of a world age. The Greek civilization, on the other hand, was not subdued to the same degree, at least as far as one can tell. It was still fearful of the gods and very conscious of disasters, but the Greeks behaved more like disinterested observers of a heavenly pageant unfolding before their eyes. Now, it's my understanding of things that Olympus was the North Pole region of the sky, because that's in the sky all the time, and you see the gods moving around Olympus. The underworld was what was below the horizon, and I think I recently found a Bible verse that says Lucifer, the morning star, Venus, used to be in the north region and now rises from the underworld, or Tartarus is also another name for it. On that day, all of them, male and female, the Titan gods, and all who were born of Kronos, and those terrible mighty ones with their insolent strength, whom Zeus brought up to the light from beneath the ground from Erebus, stirred up the sad battle. So I just want to give you a starting point here, and then I'll read through the account. The way I understand things, the Titan gods and all who were born of Kronos, which is Saturn, ruled over the heavens. So they were up in the north region of the sky, or Mt Olympus, and the sky was in a completely different configuration. Then Zeus, Jupiter, and the terrible mighty ones, who he brought up to the light from beneath the ground from Erebus, again the underworld, and this stirred up a sad battle. It's hypothesized that Saturn was much closer, so Saturn, Kronos, and all his children could have been Saturn and all of its moons. Today they say it has 274, but aside from that, Saturn, Kronos, and his titans ruled over Mt Olympus, the North Pole, and Zeus, Jupiter, came up to the light from beneath the ground. So today, everything rises and sets, but in the Golden Age, they described it as a perpetual twilight, and it sounds like Jupiter came up from the underworld, started a fight with Kronos and the Titans, and what happened next is still memorialized in mythology today. 100 hands shot from the shoulders of all of them alike, and 50 heads on stout limbs grew on the shoulders of each one of them. Then with high rocks in their stout hands, they fought against the Titans in a mournful battle. On the other side, the Titans strengthened their ranks zealously, and both sides simultaneously displayed the works of hands and strength. The boundless sea rang terribly around, the earth crashed loudly, broad heaven quaked and groaned, and high Olympus shook from its base. The heavy shaking, the noise on high of feet and ceaseless pursuit and of mighty blows reached murky Tartarus. So then they threw at each other their grievous bolts. Then Zeus no longer held back his ferocity, but now immediately his mind was filled with fury, and he showed forth all his strength. At the same time, continually hurling his lightning, he came from heaven and Olympus. Thick and fast, the thunderbolts, with thunder and lightning, flew from his stout hand, and they made a holy flame roll along, as they came in quick succession. The life-giving earth blazed and crashed all around an immense woods crackled loudly in the fire. The whole land, ocean streams, and the unfruited sea seethed. The hot blast surrounded the earthborn titans, and an immense flame reached the shining upper air. So that last bit is describing one of the titans as crashing to the earth while fire rolls across the upper atmosphere. The gleaming brilliance of the thunderbolt and lightning blinded their eyes, strong though they were. An awful heat seized chaos. To look at it straight on with the eyes or hear the sound of it with the ears, it seemed just as if earth and broad heaven threatened to meet above us. And so great was the din which arose from the former collapsing in ruins, and the latter dashing her down from above, so great was the din when the gods met in conflict. Together with this, the wind stirred up earthquakes, dust, thunder, lightning, and smoky thunderbolts, the arrows of great Zeus, and carried shouts and war cries into the midst of both sides. So the earth is shaking, the sea is roaring and going nuts. The stars in the sky are changing positions, and some of them are falling down, crashing to the earth. What it sounds like to me, but maybe I have an active imagination. But this is not the end of the tale. Years passed by until when Zeus had driven the Titans from heaven and huge earth gave birth to her youngest child, Typhus, by intercourse with Tartarus, we may picture them one night, Zeus and his new offspring rising up over the horizon, presumably trailing its huge tail. This combination then threatened the earth perhaps for many years until there came yet another assault. But he thundered harshly and strongly, and all around the earth, the broad heaven above, the sea, ocean streams, and the lowest parts of the earth resounded terribly. Through the two of them, heat seized the purple sea. From the thunder and lightning, the fire from the monster, the hurricane winds, and the blazing thunderbolts. The whole earth, sky, and sea seethed, and moreover, long waves ranged around and around about the shores. So when Zeus had raised up his strength, he chose his weapons, thunder, lightning, and the smoky thunderbolt. He leapt from Olympus and struck him and burned about the awful heads of the terrible monster. But when he had tamed him and lashed him with blows, he was thrown down lame, and the huge earth groaned. The flame from the thunderstruck Lord shot out in the unseen rocky glens of the mountains when he was struck. Much of the vast earth caught fire as a result of the awful blast and melted just as tin melts. Grieving at heart, he cast him down into broad Tartarus. Okay, so the author's note on all that. Hesiod's War of the Gods, then, is between two factions in the sky, in the course of which one group is dashed down from above. The description seems to be that of a shower of comets emerging to do battle with pre-existing ones, with the Earth sometimes running into a stream of debris. Now, it could also be some solar phenomena. Not going to get too far into that. Typhus with destructive consequences. Some aspects of the account bear a striking resemblance both to that of the Tunguska event and the Veliki Usting fall of AD 1296. It is notable that the lightning that they rained down thick and fast were blinding in their intensity, setting the earth alight, while blast, heat, earthquake, and tremendous noise accompanied the battle, and an immense flame reached the upper atmosphere. It seems, therefore, that Hesiod's account is a rather literal description based on sources now lost of a series of impact events which may be recognized as associated with comet disintegration. So, some of my own personal commentary here. You had the initial clash of the Titans, and fire rained down, earthquakes, thunder and lightning. Then years passed by after Zeus had driven the Titans from heaven, when Earth gave birth to her youngest child, Typhus, by intercourse with Tartarus. So it came up out of the underworld. Zeus and his new offspring rising up over the horizon, presumably trailing its huge tail. So this is either a huge comet with a long tail that Jupiter is following in the wake of, or I've heard some old myths say that Venus had a tail when it was first formed. But Zeus and his new offspring are rising and setting every night, and this combination then threatened the Earth perhaps for many years, until there came another assault. Well, another account says that Typhon or Typhus attempted to overthrow Zeus for the supremacy of the cosmos. The two fought a cataclysmic battle, which Zeus finally won with the aid of his thunderbolts. Defeated, Typhon was cast into Tartarus or buried underneath Mount Etna. So one, Typhon could have been cast into the underworld under the horizon, the abyss, never to be seen again. Or two, Typhon crashed into the earth and Mount Etna is the bullet hole that it formed. There's actually several myths that say that the volcanoes formed because of a god falling out of the sky. So is that really magma welling up from deep in the earth? Or did something hit there with so much force that the rocks are still boiling? I don't know, but it's kind of interesting. A couple other things. Here you have Zeus with his cosmic thunderbolt in hand, fighting off a winged monster. And then here you've got a Sumerian god with a cosmic thunderbolt in his hand, fighting off a winged monster. And in Norse, you have Odin with a cosmic thunderbolt in his hand. So if in Greek mythology, Zeus bears the cosmic thunderbolt, and in Norse, Odin bears the cosmic thunderbolt, then would that mean that Odin is Zeus or Jupiter? They're both considered the father of the gods. And Odin is portrayed as the one-eyed god, which could reference the one eye of Jupiter. But they seem to be the only ones that associate Jupiter with one eye. The Inca even have Viracocha, and he's holding serpents that are meant to portray lightning bolts. And Viracocha is also considered the father of the gods. So every culture in the world connects the father of the gods with the cosmic lightning bolt. All right, so that's a good start to things. I think that shows you kind of what I'm all about. I'm not for everybody, but if you're into it, you might as well hit the subscribe button. You can really help out and hit the like button and stick around and we'll go over some other crazy stuff. So hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll catch you on the next one. Peace out.